clans had to come together and form one web of matriarchs, an Anasazi, the web, the worldwide web of mothers. Each one is a Tesla coil. And as they assemble, the power grid gets bigger and bigger, and the mitochondria will begin to raise the frequency. And the people's eyes begin to open up to the fallacy that they was living and the prosperity that the future holds. This is where we're going with this. No longer will we surrender our destiny to anybody other than ourselves. And that's fair. And anywhere we go, it's fair. Even in the restricted will universe, it's still fair. Everybody got a right to claim their own destiny. And this is our tribal right to reclaim our own destiny and put our matriarchs back in charge. And none of these suckers better not act like they want to get out of line with any other clan mothers, because there's zero tolerance for these people pushing up on any of the clan mothers. We had enough of it. Enough is enough. So now when y'all start moving, they're going to be getting out y'all way. If you don't, you're going to see them little hood thugs that they told us was uncontrollable, telling them you better move out of mama way before we move you. They're going to be popping up from out of nowhere. I ain't even know that little boy was there. But wherever y'all go, y'all going to be having that type of energy output that they going to naturally take their position and protect you. This the energy that the love energy y'all trying to reactivate and reignite. So whether they on the police force, whether they on the sheriff department, whether they thugs in the street, your energy gonna make them all come to your aid. When y'all start tying together, all of y'all gonna have the same influence. They call that being filled with the Holy Ghost. And the Holy Ghost is the activated mitochondrial resonance that fills the soul with the bliss of divine love. Once I was blind, but now I see. So we don't no longer allow the blind to lead the blind. We just let the leaders lead the way, and we form behind the ones that's going in the right direction. And the only direction that's the correct direction is the direction that gives us the benefit for the most amount of people. And we standing up for all of the people, no matter where they at. Stop the genocide. Stop the info. You got these old miserable middle-aged decrepit creeps, pedophile priest cults running the country, sending the babies to go fight in bloody wars that they don't have nothing to do with. They all fighting over adrenochrome bottles and $1 bets to start wars that won't end for 10 years, taking thousands of lives for a laugh. We done with that. We don't want to participate. We want everything to go back to the way Big Mama had it, because if you put it back the way that it's supposed to run, it's going to run the way that it's supposed to go. And we're going to have heaven on earth again. And mother's love going to lead the way, because that's the light of the universe. Because the mother universe created us all. And out of the triple darkness came the love and the light to lead the way to the children out of darkness. And Empress Redbird is the physical incarnation and representative, diplomat of divine creator to walk amongst us at this time. I yield. They use for different conjures, they use your saliva, they can use the tears in your eyes. That's why they be making them babies crying with the panda eyes. They be collecting their tears. And then they collect the adrenochrome from it. This is all part of the Babylonian blood rituals to keep us in a stupor from the residual pheromones of child slaughter in the air that makes the mothers go through an apathy that keep them from stepping into their power, because it's telling them that all of these babies are dead and they can sense the energy from it. Mm-hmm. And so the mothers start to get restless because they want the problem fixed. They don't see with their eyes that child getting slaughtered on the other side of the world. But she feel the mother's pain when she feel the separation of the energy of a living child that transitions under those harsh conditions of torture. Every mother feel every mother's pain when she see those children in pictures and images. Every mother feel a mother's pain, and it's contagious. As they begin to feel it, it causes the mothers to go like start walking in a circle. That's because they trying to regroup from that negative frequency. This was the purpose of the blood magic and writing writing the Constitution in Crispus Attucks' blood as the first chief to die in the American Revolution. They using the principles of the blood magic. The bodily fluids can all be used for one form of magic, whether it's your urine, your bodily waste, your fecal matter. They can use it all for different conjure spells. But the fact that you expose it to the public makes it reduce in its potency upon the people, because now they being told what's being used as the mechanism to hold them. Their spiritual guardians know how to protect them. But when they didn't know how to call the ancestral support team to protect them. And they told us that turning to our ancestors for support was some evil stuff from the devil, and all the time it was some righteous stuff from Big Mama house. It was them brews and herbs that healed the cold in one day, where now you got to take Robitussin, it might still take a week to heal. It was the touch of the mothers on the cheek of the child that tell him that it's going to be all right. You just scraped your knee, baby. It's missing. And we want it back. We want to see our children and our grandchildren grow up with the tender hands that grandma rocked us with. We can't do that if we let these people just do what they want to do, when we have a right to reclaim what's ours by blood and by right, and override their conjure magic with righteousness, because we right. And whether they taking the cerebral spinal fluid, whether they take the sacred secretion when it rises from the base of the spine, the Christ fluid, all of that stuff is part of those conjures that kept us subjugated. So we here to bring an end to it once and for all. All of the dirty players gonna get treated like dirty players. They're gonna get what they rightfully deserve by the works they perform. Just like the righteous is gonna be getting a righteous reward for the works that they done. It's not personal, it's just balancing out with nature. Mm-hmm. And if we're gonna follow the great law, the first rule of the great law is maintain balance. Mm-hmm. Right? And that's where all of the mechanics of government being reclaimed by the matriarchy, make the systems run right, get the resources to the people. Everybody is entitled to food, clothing, and shelter, and the local big mama's gonna make sure it happens. Because she don't want none of her babies sleeping out in the rain. When he could go over Big Mama house and get a cot and a hot. And he can leave in the morning if he want to. He ain't nobody hostage. But he got somewhere to rest his head for the night. Big Mama makes sure that all of us got somewhere to rest. Ain't no such thing as homeless under the matriarchy. If you homeless under the matriarchy, it's because you chose not to have a home. It's not because there wasn't one made available to you. But under this patriarchy, they don't care if you're sleeping on the curb, if you're sleeping behind a liquor store. They don't care if you're sleeping in the cardboard box. It has to go. Yep. Well, all of the sheriffs don't know, but the constitutional sheriff, they got a constitutional sheriff league. For all of the sheriffs that know what's going on, they all joined up and they protested against the legal fiction administering law enforcement, usurping their jurisdictional authority. The sheriffs is the only law enforcement elected by the people. That's the only reason why they're not going to be dismantled with the police force. Then the National Guard is going to come in, and they are the ones that's going to relieve the local police stations. And don't be surprised if all of the brass of each one of the police stations get rushed to Gitmo.
Ooh,
They
wow.
are operating under a charter from a foreign jurisdiction, administering the responsibilities of a police state. The sheriffs don't operate like that. You got to have an election in order to place a sheriff. That means the people pick the people that's governing their law enforcement responsibilities. That's the only reason why they're going to be there, but they're going to be having to work with the National Guard. All of those sheriffs that made that alliance is already aware because they are being kept up to speed of the transitional power of government by the Raven Rock team. They got a team that's responsible to keep the sheriffs up to date on how we progressing. Right? They got a team that's keeping the State Department. They know how to systematically shut this process down. And so as you doing what you're doing to solidify power, you hastening them closing the Federal Reserve, you hastening them systematically shutting down the corporate fiction that's been masquerading as our government. But they can't leave openly until the clan mothers finally get to critical mass of acknowledgement of one another in order to switch systems, to automatically switch by the energy. And as y'all begin to meet each other, y'all gonna feel different. Y'all gonna feel more empowered. Y'all gonna feel more in control of your own personal life, which is gonna give you more energy to do your service to the community just in the name of love alone. While you get into that, military intelligence was all over this right here.
So
they researched the document from cover to cover to make sure that everything was accurate. Absolutely right, Empress. We supposed to be arresting them as foreign agents because none of them is registered under the Foreign Agents Act. But as you see with this document, they are all chartered under a foreign jurisdiction of origin. Mm-hmm. Constitutionally, they're not supposed to be operating on the land. And it's funny because the first police, they was called Copper Tops, was stationed in New York. That's New Yorkshire. Right? So they was already put over here by the Crown of England. And then we got tricked into paying for them, believing that they was working for us under the legal fiction. They was all the time the occupying forces of England that's been patrolling the territories and keeping our land in a police state. Why they issue warrants when they want to arrest us, because that's a declaration of war against one person. And banking is different, but for the police occupying the land, it's a two-part word that's been merged together as a compound word to make us be deceived about what it's saying. As the Crown of England, remember in 1776, the colonists wasn't fighting the people in the land, they was fighting the people from England. Right. That the Americans won the war. All the time they usurped America with the Second Constitution. Right? And then they renamed everything to make it look like it was us doing business as ourselves, and it was them mimicking us to do business in our place. And like the police was operating with a charter from a foreign corporation or government. Mm-hmm. Also, the barristers was chartered in Savannah, Georgia in 1863-64 by King George III. Mm-hmm. To masquerade as purveyors of law on the land among the people, because they have to figure out a way to capitalize on how they criminalize us once they create crime. Because the people of the land didn't have any when they came. But in the early journals of the early settlers of how organized and peaceful we was. That's what made them think we was pushovers. Now remember, the appearance of legitimacy is the obligation under Uniform Commercial Code. The Uniform Commercial Code is to make things appear to be legitimate, and the Uniform Commercial Code is the code used to administer international law among nations. Nations are the corporations that's owned by the royal families of each one of the lands in 12 regions, which makes up the 12 daughters of Isis. This is where they get the Federal Reserve 12 banks plus one. The plus one was the DC bank, that they only use a star to represent the bank.
You damn right.
Okay, so the jurisdiction is captured because they moved the bank seat under the 13th Federal Reserve seat in DC.
Yep.
Because
which is in Washington, disguised as the United States Treasury.
Right. Now, if you look at how they have the 12 banks set up across the land, and they used to represent the 13th bank, they use a 5-pointed star, the Eastern Star.
I'm gonna pull it up.
This is because that star represent who stole Big Mama Bank. They use sigil magic in the design of the floor plans of Washington, D.C. in order to capture the banking rights using Babylonian money magic. By telling us that the Big Mama Bank is being captured in D.C., we had to do a particular thing. The tribes had to stake a totem pole in D.C. It was done in 2017 for those who want to know. I got all of the receipts for us to step by step reclaim the land and the different tribes performing their function on their part. SikApe was a tribal mother in Canada that put the Pope on public notice, told them that we would no longer honor any law that's not the great law, and that all of the chiefs have been selected across the land and to govern itself accordingly. His response to her was to rescind the discovery doctrine when he got back to Rome. The rescission of the discovery doctrine means this: it is the foundational doctrine of the discovery of foreign lands from the Edict of the Pope that validated all of the treaties that was done in fraud and deception upon the natives of the various lands the Catholic Church pushed the Christian doctrine to. And so now he have to rescind it, and it brings all of those treaties to bear up on the fruit of the poison tree doctrine, which means it all goes away as soon as the matriarchs reclaim the land. So you were showing the map of the banks. Empress.
Okay, so give me a second here.
You see, now this is under natural law. Under admiralty law, nations are vessels at sea, and sovereigns are the captains of ships. That's the difference. It's patriarchal versus matriarchal. In the matriarchal system, nations comes from the root word natal. Right? That's why. Yeah, that's why they had the doc certifying the birth of the ship. right? And that's why they use the mother as the informant, so she'll know what ship is about to breach when her water break and come down the canal so that they can tax it. The ship, the national, that they captured in the salvage rights of the corporation to administer the birth process of the ship at dock. So they was using that to usurp us by changing the meaning of the names in relation to the function of law on land versus the function of law of the seas. That was the trick the whole time to keep mama out of power.